We're going to go over a pre-alignment inspection, and it correlates to our lesson with the tape measure. So a tape measure is a good tool to have to check a car before you ever do an alignment on a car. So we're going to go through the different inspection points and talk about them. The first thing you should always check before an alignment is your tire pressure. The tire will list it as max pressure. You always check it cold. This tire is rated at 44. You can go to the door jamb of the driver's door and get the manufacturer recommendation for tire pressure. I like the way my car rides at 40 psi, so I always default to that. So go around your car. This is just a push and read, and I'm right at 40. And you would do this for each of the 4 tires. The next thing I would check as I go around to each tire is the tire pattern, the tire wear pattern, okay? So you take your hand, if the tire's rolling this way, you take your hand and you roll it backwards the way the tire, and you feel the way the tire would feel on the road. There's 3 areas that I focus on: my fingertips, my palm, the top of my palm, and the bottom of my palm. So the inside edge, the middle, and the outside edge. My tires are wearing really well. I do an alignment on my car once a year because I have this machine here and I have access to it every day. So, but most people do an alignment every time they get new tires or every 20,000 miles. So check your tire wear pattern at each wheel as you go and check the tire pressure. All right, now for the tape measure that we've been studying how to read. This tape measure actually has the fractional values in eighths for you to read. So this has the fractional values for you to easily read. Not all tape measures are gonna have that, so you gotta know how to read a tape measure. So always get your air pressure right, because air pressure affects ride height. So we're gonna measure our ride height, and you're gonna go straight through the center of the tire and straight to the bottom of the fender. And it looks like this is 26 and 1/16. It's not on the 8th where it reads, it's on the 16th. Let me show you. So here's the 26, and I'm on that mark. Here's the 8th, and I'm halfway on the 8th, so that's a 16th. So I'm 26 and 16th. Now I'm going to go to the other side, and I should be within a ½ an inch difference of right to left. You don't really compare rear to the front to rear. You compare side to side. So again, I'm going to go here, and look at that. I'm at 25 3/4. I'm at 25 3/4, and I'm at 26 1/16. So let's count the marks. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5/16. I'm in spec. I'm under a ½ an inch difference between the right and the left. Now keep in mind, if my air pressure isn't the same, that could be that ½ inch difference right there. So now we're going to check setback. Okay, so I'm measuring the distance of the outside of the rim from the rear to the outside of the rim on the front, and then I'm going to compare it to the other side. So I have 122 inches. You got to make sure it goes through the center of each wheel, and you go right to the edge of the rim, and I'm at 122 15/16. So I'm at 122. I'm not at 7/8, and I'm not at 123. So I'm at 122 15/16. So let's now compare that to the side. So now we're going to compare the driver's side to the passenger side. And you'll look right here. Here's 122. I'm right at the same mark. And you got to make sure you're going through the center of the rim. And I'm right at 122 15/16. Okay? So what that means is, over time, especially this right front tire, people, when they park their car, they hit the curb. repeatedly over and over every time they park their car against a curb. And it's always this tire. And as bushings and ball joints wear, this tire is going to actually start to move backwards. So you got to make sure that you're parallel on both sides, as far as this wheel being set back or that wheel being set back. Because cars, you hit things on the road and that could bend parts or cause parts to fail. So setback is a really important measurement that you check with a tape measure. I'm going to show you the difference of what we just measured with setback with a measurement with cars called wheelbase, or trucks mainly. So trucks, you deal with wheelbase a lot. You can look up the wheelbase to any car though. The door jamb sticker on the driver's side will sometimes tell you the wheelbase. This one does not, because it's for a car. But trucks will always give you the wheelbase. So the wheelbase is from the center of the tire to the center, from the rear tire to the center of the front tire. And this is just a measurement that's based on the design of the car. And in this case, it looks like I'm at 107 1/16 of an inch, okay? So you can look it up. They might even list it as 107 inches because usually it's a whole number. It's never really a fractional number. It's usually a whole number that you'll get with your wheelbase. But the wheelbase is a measurement from the center of the front rim to the center of the rear rim.
Okay, the next thing we want to show you is called a dry park test. And what this is going to do is going to test your steering linkage to see if there's any play in it at all. And so what you want to make sure is that you got a ruler with you. And you shouldn't have about more than an inch of play in the steering. So if you hold this at some point to the top, I'm just going to reference number 5 there. And I wiggle this back and forth without actually moving the front wheels. I'm just checking play. And I have about a 1/2 inch of movement back and forth. The most that you should ever have is about 1 inch. If you take a look, I'm testing it right now. I'm trying not to actually move the front wheels. I just want to feel for the looseness in the steering. Here's a little technique that might make it easier to measure. If you wrap a piece of this white, it's a Teflon tape around the steering wheel, it'll give you a line to reference so that when you hold the ruler up here, you can get a really good idea how much movement you have. So I'm just going to use the number 7 as my center point. And if I move this back and forth, I'm actually noticing there's only about a 1/2 inch of play, and that's the most that you should see, 1/2 inch. Another test that you should do for pre-alignment is called a Jounce test, and this is going to test the shocks or the struts on here. So I'm going to push down on the car and let go. It should respond by coming up and then settling. If it bounces more than one time, you need to replace your shocks or struts. You want to be careful where you press on somebody's car. You definitely don't want to damage it. So I look for the structural area on the corner here, or if that seems a little flexible, just go down to the bumper. Don't push on the hood. They're real thin and they can dent. So one good push. You can see this one comes right back up and settles. Shocks are good on this one. You need to make sure that you test all 4 corners of the car. And again, this one looks like it's in good condition. Don't forget to go around to the other side too. Really important that before you ever do an alignment, that you check your tire pressure, you check your steering linkage, and you check your suspension for any looseness or play in there. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get a good alignment.
So the last thing you need to take into account is, what was the customer complaint? Was the car pulling to one side going down the road? Was the steering wheel off-centered? You really need to ask clarification questions. Why is the customer asking for an alignment, or why yourself need an alignment? And it's all about the test drive. So if there is no complaints from the customer, you need to go for a test drive and verify. That way you have as much background information as you could possibly get before you ever go on the machine, because that information from all the tests and the road tests will tell you what is out or what you suspect is out on the alignment machine. With this situation, with this car, the steering wheel is off-centered, so I already know it's an alignment problem with toe. So I need to adjust the toe to straighten out the steering wheel. But that doesn't account for handling. You got a straight piece of road right here. I'm going to go straight. I'm going to let go. I'm going to see if it pulls. And it is drifted a little bit to the right. And it does not increase when I hit the brake. So I still think it's a toe problem and not a camber caster. But the proper way to test drive a car is to get a straight piece of road and it has to be flat. Like right now, it's flat. So I just take my foot off the accelerator pedal, let go. It is drifting to the right. You also want to see if it brakes to the right and accelerates. And acceleration and braking does not increase it, so it's definitely, in my mind, a toe problem. It needs alignment. You good? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's good. All right. The inside feathering is right here is validating the same thing I'm seeing on the test drive, which is the crooked steering wheel. So this wheel is towed out, causing the inside feathering. Okay, we're checking our shocks with a Jounce Test. And it's bouncing and rocking to this side. And both these shocks are shot. And I could tell that the rears are shot too, because the whole car just keeps rocking.
With this car, it makes a really hard knocking sound. It's like very repetitive, it's fast, goes dun, 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 really loud and on turns too. So,
Okay. So we have front and rear movement of the tire. And then keep doing it. So we're going to check our ball joint and follow that up, and you'll see right in here is the lower control arm bushing right in here. Completely shot on both sides. So go do the other side. So we're going to go to the other side of the subframe and look right inside the subframe right here. And you see both of them. The whole suspension is moving. So this is not only affecting his braking, but it's affecting his caster on both sides. Because that's a caster movement.
and we get
yeah.
tire wear. It's like
Yeah.
way premature tire wear.
Oh yeah, they're
Really
scuffing.
fast. Yeah, they
Yeah.
scuff really quick.
Yeah. And it's attached to our lower control arm. And you see right here, the bushing's all gone. Completely gone. And then when I showed him this, he went, oh yeah, it makes a noise every time I go over a bump. So hopefully you know that this is a sway bar link. And he needs to get sway bar bushings. And it's a rattly clanking sound when he goes over bumps. If we go to the other side, here's the other side, nice and tight. Bushings, this bushing's starting to deteriorate, so I would get two kits. So it's starting to go, but this side was not making noise yet. So he needs a switch. Okay, go. Alright, so this is the steering shaft going into the rack and pinion. And then you could see the whole rack and pinion moving on the frame. So right up here is where it's actually turning. This should be stationary. Keep going. And you can see it, especially here, you can see it sliding in and out of the mounting bracket, and that should not happen. It should stay stationary. So the whole thing is shifting back and forth, which makes it really dangerous. And then tie rods, I thought it was a tie rods. Keep going, Jerry. I thought it was a tie rods right here. So you have your outer and your inner tie rod. But if you look, there's no play in it at all. And let's go to the other side. Again, there's no play. Outer tie rod, inner tie rod. Keep going, Jerry. So the problem is right there, and it's caused by the oil leak. So the oil leak ruined the bushing. So the bushing is this guy right here, this little ring, and it's lost its grip, and so the whole steering assembly is dangerous. This thing drifts and wanders uncontrollably on the road to the point where I wouldn't drive it anymore. Okay, so I found both bolts on the shock, on the lower shock mount bushing were loose, and I made the noise video, so I tightened this, and now there's no noise. Alright, we have a Chevy Malibu that has, that we believe, a hub bearing noise. So I'm going to get underneath the car. Mr. Leary's going to drive it in the air, and we're going to use a stethoscope. Go ahead and do it real quick, Jordy. So you can hear it right there. So let's try it with a stethoscope on the inside. Stethoscope, and we're going to stick it right at the base of the bearing, right here on that bolt. Okay, Jordy, go ahead and spin it. Give it a little gas. Yep, so it's coming from that bearing. We're going to go ahead and change that. This is my friend's car. It's a Honda Civic. But what's happening is when you're going down the road, the steering wheel is shimmying. So we're getting this shimmy going down the road, and the vehicle tends to drift down the road. It doesn't go straight. You try to make it go straight and it will drift like this. So what we're going to do is a tire inspection all the way around. Plenty of tread, but right when I get to that one spot, boom, no tread, and the wear bar is completely worn off. And we have this right here. So there's two things that probably happen. And you look right here, you can see there's a low spot and then a real high spot. So I think the steel belt inside, the belts are coming apart in this one tire. So the tire is very unstable. But not only that, if you look inside here, you can see all the wheel weights right here. And you keep turning and you'll see, there it is right there. So right here, the wheel weight came off. So this tire was completely out of balance. Okay, I was on spring break. It's Thursday, and I got a call yesterday about a friend's car, 2005 Suburban. She said she wouldn't drive it anymore. Just said it sounded dangerous. And so I went to their house yesterday, drove around the cul-de-sac that she's at, and lo and behold, it made a creaking sound. I don't know if it's gonna make it on the lift. Yep, and it's actually binding. There it is. Yep, wow. It's completely binding. And matter of fact, I would argue that this is about ready to fall off the car. And then if I were to grab it at the 9 and 6, you could see the play. I don't know if you can see that well. And it's our 12 and 6 and 3 and 9. Both are loose. I have this car jacked up in the air. So this is how you would check ball joints. So her ball joints aren't bad. These are the ball joints right here, right here. It's the wheel bearing here. So the wheel bearing's held on by this bolt, and this bolt. And so we gotta take all the brakes off and then replace this.